Ah, the case interview. If you're shooting for a top consulting firm, you know this is the big one, the final gatekeeper. But honestly, mastering it can feel pretty much impossible, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to cut through all that noise and give you a super clear path to success. So let's break it all down.
So, does this feel a little familiar? I mean, if you've even just started looking into case prep, you've seen it, that absolute mountain of books, guides, and videos. It's so easy to feel like you're just drowning in information before you've even tried to solve your very first business problem.
And hey, if you feel that way, you are definitely not alone. The biggest hurdle for most people isn't that there's a lack of resources, it's that there are just way too many. The sheer volume of stuff out there, that's the real challenge.
Okay, so think of this explainer as your map. We're going to help you navigate all this. We're going to give you a clear, structured path that takes you from the chaos of prep all the way to a confident final interview. Ready? Let's get started.
All right, first section, cracking the case interview. Before we can even start building a plan, we need to get on the same page about what this thing actually is, and, why preparing for it feels so incredibly daunting in the first place.
So, what is a case interview exactly? Well, at its core, it's basically a business problem simulation. The big firms, think McKinsey, BCG, Bain, they use it to see how you think on your feet. And here's the key. They aren't just looking for some single right answer. Nope. They're testing your analytical skills, your ability to take a messy, complicated problem and give it structure, and of course, how clearly you can communicate your thought process.
And you know what? This gets right to the heart of the problem. A quick Google search will throw, dozens of case examples at you. But where do you even begin? The real challenge isn't finding the material. It's figuring out which resources are actually worth your precious time. So how do we fix that? Simple. By building a resource toolkit. Let's think of this next section as your curated map to the absolute best practice materials out there, so you know exactly where to turn.
First up, you've got to start with the gold standard, the official practice materials from the big three firms themselves, McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. They all provide real, high-quality cases right on their websites. Seriously, this part is non-negotiable. You have to start here to really get a feel for what each firm is looking for.
But the list totally doesn't stop there. Other top-tier firms like Deloitte, Accenture, and Oliver Wyman, they also offer some fantastic, high-quality resources. We're talking everything from full-on workbooks to really unique case scenarios. Okay, now here's a resource that a lot of people totally miss: university casebooks. The consulting clubs at top business schools, Wharton, London Business School, Berkeley, they compile these massive collections of past cases. And here's a little pro tip for you. You can often find them with a simple search for something like Wharton Consulting Club Casebook PDF. Trust me, they are an absolute treasure trove for getting a ton of different practice scenarios. Okay, so now we've got our toolkit, but a pile of resources is kind of useless without a strategy, right? So next up, let's talk about a simple 3-step practice plan to actually put all these resources to work effectively.
The methodology is really simple, and it's progressive. Step 1. You practice by yourself. This is where you master the fundamentals, learning the core frameworks, drilling the math, and literally talking through cases out loud on your own. Then, step 2, you move on to practicing with peers. This is all about getting used to thinking aloud with someone else in the room. And finally, step 3, you refine everything by practicing with experts. Now, this comparison is super important to understand. Practicing with your peers, it's great, mainly because it's free and it helps you get comfortable talking through a case. But the big downside is that the feedback can be, well, a little inaccurate, because your peers just don't have that insider knowledge. On the other hand, practicing with an expert gives you really realistic interview conditions and super accurate company-specific feedback. That's what saves you time and builds genuine confidence. And this, of course, brings us to the big question that every aspiring consultant has to ask. What's the ROI? What's the return on investment? So let's actually look at the numbers, because this is where the argument for expert coaching gets, well, really, really powerful.
All right, first, let's talk about the potential upside. Landing a job at a top consulting firm often means a massive bump in your annual pay. We're talking $50,000 or even more every single year. Okay, so that's the gain. Now what's the investment? Well, a few really high-impact coaching sessions with an experienced pro, that might typically set you back around $500. So when you do the math, That is a potential return on investment of over 100 times what you put in. For a future strategist, that's what we call a clear-cut business case. It's kind of a no-brainer.
And look, it's not just about the math. The quote here says it all. Practicing real interviews with experts who can give you company-specific feedback makes a huge difference. This is how you learn all the unwritten rules of the game and build that rock-solid confidence you're gonna need.
All right, let's bring this all home. In our final section, we're going to connect all the dots and lay out your clear, straightforward path to getting that offer. So, to sum it all up, your journey really comes down to 4 key things. First, you've got to acknowledge that the real problem is just too much information. Second, use that curated toolkit of resources we talked about. Third, follow the 3-step practice plan. Start by yourself, then with peers, then with experts. And finally, seriously consider that powerful ROI of getting expert help.
And that's really why this matters so much. Taking a structured approach like this one transforms your prep from something chaotic and totally overwhelming into a clear, manageable process. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your own career.
So there you have it. We've laid it all out for you. You've got the map, you've got the toolkit, and you've got the strategy. The only question left is, what's your first step?